if Kyler can just improve that relationship with Marv and get it to the level that we see with a Jalen and A.J. Brown, a Joe and a Jamar, a Stafford and a Puka, he will have a season that he hasn't had yet this year, and he's had some really, really good ones.
The fun continues here live from Radio Row. Of course, ESPN NFL analyst Dan Orlovsky. Dan, marquee matchup this weekend, but not for us as Arizona Cardinal fans. Our season ended long ago. Cardinals, once upon a time, 6-4 pre-bye, but some uneven play post-bye, end of the year at 8-9. What do you think the Cardinals need to do to get to the next level?
Catch a season with better health. I think that's a big deal. When they were 6-4, everyone was like, who do you think's going to win the West? And, I had picked the Rams and everyone was like, Cardinals. I'm like, I just think at some point the injuries will pile up. And so I think they got to get a little bit healthier or the catch the health bug. I was super impressed with the way that they played football defensively this year, again, with some of the deficiencies with their health. Buddha was sensational. Kaiser was outstanding. Robinson, once he got healthy, started to play good football. So I like a lot of their defense. You probably got to get a little bit high end on the corner, maybe. I think offensively, the offense is issue. I was thinking about this yesterday because you got Marv and you got Mike. Mm-hmm. So you really like those two guys, and Marv is going to be better in Kyler's connection. And Dortch has had some nice moments. But do they need a little bit an elevated slot type of receiver? And Mike and Marv are big-bodied guys, and so you love that part of their game. But do they need somebody that can be a little bit more, maybe a bigger version of Greg to work the middle of the field? Trey's an absolute superstar. Health on the offensive line will be a big deal. So I think there's a lot to like, and I think this was a really good year for that foundation kind of being built for them and under Gannon for the future.
I love that you're just randomly thinking about the Cardinals playmakers. It's just a random Wednesday.
I'm telling you, I was thinking about it yesterday. I don't know why it popped into my head, but I was thinking about something, and I was like, the Cardinals could really use a really good slot receiver. Again, I really like Dortch, but maybe a guy that's just an elevated version of that.
Yeah, you could run on a platform, and I would vote for you. I don't know what office, what seat, but the first game of the season, you got people complaining about Kyler Murray. They're using a screenshot. Look at him. He missed a wide open Marvin Harrison. Yeah, I loved how you came to his defense. How do you continue to evaluate Kyler, though, as his 2024 season as a whole?
I thought Kyler really grew a lot this year. I mean, there was a lot of times where I thought Kyler was playing top 5 MVP caliber football. So there was a lot of good stuff. He's got to get a better connection with Marv going. It's not a one-way street. It's not just Kyler, and it's not just Marv, and it's not just the play calling. That has to go to the next level, or they'll never either individually reach where they have to go. I thought Kyler did a really good job of, throwing some guys open, playing in the rhythm of the pass game offense, not being totally reliant on his legs, and then he was still a special playmaker at the end of the game. So Kyler can just improve that relationship with Marv and get it to the level that we see with a Jalen and A.J. Brown, a Joe and a Jamar, a Stafford and a Puka. He will have a season that he hasn't had yet this year, and he's had some really, really good ones.
Why do you think, because you're clearly still a Marv guy, buying Marv stock, why do you think these other receivers like a Brian Thomas Jr., Malik Neighbors, the transition to the NFL was a little bit more seamless? I've heard some narratives like they were spammed the football, they were on bad teams. Marv is just a part of the Cardinal offense. Like, how do they mix, like, ensuring he gets targets, production, and helping them win games as a result?
Yeah, I think the stuff that I've heard about Marv is how good of a human being he is, how good of a kid he is. You want a little bit of a killer, you do. Like, Jamar's a killer. Neighbor's a killer. Those guys are wired. They got a little sauce to them. And so you want a little bit of that, Marv. Does that come with a comfort level? Does that come with the second year? Does that come with expectations? Honestly, does it come with a little bit of pressure? And so the theme that when we were out there calling that Monday night game was, sometimes there's the trying to be too perfect. If you watch Neighbors' game this year, he was never trying to be perfect. Just get him. What's your route? Don't know. Throw it to me. And so there is a little bit, and everyone's got to be their own. And Marv's a technician, and so he's just, getting to that comfort level of, we say the word diva with some of these receivers, and sometimes it's always negative. Sometimes it's like, throw me the ball.
Yeah.
And so, and Kyler's, I remember calling the game and be like, Kyler, he's in the slot. There's the matchup. Throw it to him.
Yeah.
So Kyler's got to do his part as well.
Yeah. We were talking to the receiver coach, pretty 3/4 of the way through the season. He's like, I almost wish like Mike Wilson and Marvin Harrison Jr. were a little bit rude. Like they're great leaders, right, for that room. But I just wish they would just say, throw me the damn ball every once in a while.
Don't care what the coverage is, and there. Can he get there? That'll probably be the big challenge. I think the answer is yes. I don't know Marvin like that, but there are. We had Andre Johnson. I played with Andre Johnson in Houston. He never said anything. He's as good a human being as there on the planet. But there were times where he would be, Shabby would tell me the stories and he'd be like, Andre just told me to throw it to him, so I did. We had that with Calvin. I played with Calvin. Calvin, nicest person on the planet, sweetest human being in the world. Throw me the ball. Got it. You do that.
Myles Garrett making headlines here, really on Radio Row, asking for a trade. Would the Arizona Cardinals be a destination for him, do you think?
The day after it came out, they were one of my 5 teams. Now, one, because obviously the player that Myles is. 2, I also said, Cleveland's in search of a quarterback. I don't know what Arizona's long-term plans are with Kyler. Do they envision him as the guy? Do they not? If they didn't, then that's a trade partner. I would probably lean into still believing that Kyler is the guy, but I'm not the person making those decisions. Even if you don't, Monty's done a nice job. Myles isn't going to be cheap. What player and how many picks are you willing to get rid of? If you look at the teams that are obviously playing Sunday, Howie Roseman's last 4 drafts have been just stupid good.
Yeah.
He's 12 for 12 in his first 3 rounds. Kansas City's drafts have been sensational. I still believe in building through the drafts. You don't want to just say, give up the farm.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's you can get yourself in trouble on that.
I mean, the big issue and what we keep on running into, if you were to pivot off Kyler, like, what do you do in the interim? Like, do you go out? I mean, because the free agent class, it's not very good. The draft class doesn't seem like it's materializing like you would want.
Yeah, it's always about, and again, I wouldn't be an advocate of it. I still think that Kyler is just starting to scratch the surface. But a lot of it is, organizations, they find a guy in the draft and you go, we can get him in the 2nd round and he's a lot cheaper and we could take it in. There's philosophies. Every organization has their philosophy. So, they're in a division with the team that was a Super Bowl contender year in, year out, where the guy was the last pick of the draft. They're in a division with the
Rams aren't going anywhere.
Correct. But they're also Seattle. Gino's a 2nd round pick.
Yeah.
He obviously not having the success. He's having a lot more now, but it's all what their viewpoint is with who they are at quarterback and do they think they can get better cheaper.
What's your assessment of Jonathan Gannon? You just mentioned heavy hitters coaching-wise in the NFC West.
Man.
Yeah.
I liked him.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
I liked him. I didn't have any expectation. I had heard stuff about him before we had, again, the Monday night game, and we talked with them, and, every time you have the opportunity to talk with these coaches, you make a judgment.
Mm-hmm.
You do. It's natural. And I remember getting we did a Zoom because I was doing college football, and I was like, I really like this dude.
Yeah.
He was straightforward, honest, kept it a buck, didn't sugarcoat stuff. And he came up to me before the game and he was like, we got to take the air away from their offense, and, and it seems like the guys resonated with them. So, I liked him. I know some people, specifically Philly people, maybe not be the biggest fans, but I liked him.
I mean, JG it seems like he brings the juice, the enthusiasm. Obviously, it helps him kind of lead and rebuild that culture in Arizona. As they go into year 3, when you look at this offseason, what's the best option for the Cardinals to really kind of upgrade their roster? The 16th overall pick, is it through the draft, or is it maybe going after somebody aggressively in free agency?
Yeah, I still believe the draft, as long as you do it well. And I think Monty, has got some marks. You say, okay, this guy might not stink at this type thing. So I still think it's the draft. Defensively, I mentioned the corner position.
We're big on edge.
Yeah, maybe edge. I was just going to say maybe an edge rusher. And then offensively, the interior of their offensive line was pretty darn good last year. Again, I think, when you got McBride, if you could get a slot option person, then you go 4 guys that are really good players. So it's a roster that makes you feel a little bit more encouraged than it did 2 years ago.
You mentioned McBride. He was on our set earlier.
He's a freak.
Superstar. Where do you put him in tight end hierarchy? Is he number one next year, maybe? I mean, in terms of an ascending player, Kelsey's been great. Kittle's been great. On the other side of 30.
Ascending, you would have to put him at number one, ascending at the tight end position. I'm trying to think of another young guy that you go, yep, he's him. I like Ferguson from Dallas.
Bowers is good.
Bowers as well. McBride reminds me of a young Shockey, man. He's got that little mother joker edge to him. And he's one of those guys, I guarantee he gets in huddles and throw it to me.
Yeah.
You know? So
he is. Yeah.
I think he's a superstar, man. He's an awesome player.
Well, we'll end it with this since we're just we're going to rank a little bit. Your forte, the quarterback position. Where do you currently have Kyler in the landscape of NFL QB?
Kyler, I would probably place in that, that top 12 to 14 world, teetering on it. If he plays consistently, he's probably in your top 10. And if he, has an injury or two around him and maybe gets a little bit uncharacteristic, he's probably in that 15 to 16 world. So, but again, I had him at times this year, top 5, and so I still think that Kyler, and I've been hard on Kyler in the past, I still think this year is a little bit of the scratching the surface of what maybe is the foundation building for his future.
Can Kyler be a top guy? He's a top guy for us. Dan Orlovsky, ESPN. Can't wait for this weekend's matchup. Thank you, Dan.
Pleasure, guys.